Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and welcome to another show, another Thursday evening here. It's hard to believe, but it's already into the third week of April 21st of 2016, and we're just rocking along here into the new year, and lots of great golf happening, not only on TV, but happening on the golf course all throughout the United States and even around the world. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I got two great guests coming up here in just a quick second on the Coach's Corner panel discussion, as we always start off the show each and every week. And then I'm going to be joined by another gentleman a little bit later on in the show, who I'll introduce to you as well. But in the meantime, let me just remind everybody, of course, we are live every Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on blogtalkradio.com network. Easiest way to find us, for those of you navigating here the first time, just go to blogtalkradio.com, type in the search key Golf Talk Live, and that will take you to the main page. And, of course, always at the top of the main page is the current live show. And for some reason, if you're not able to join us live and you still want to find us, go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live and just scroll down through the page. You'll come to the on-demand section, and in that section there is all of the programs that have been previously recorded. You can listen at your leisure when it's convenient for you, but we hope you can join us live. It's a lot more fun that way. Always want to invite you guys to call in, whether it's during the panel discussion or whether it's when my guests come on a little bit later on. And I know sometimes you guys do, and a lot of times you don't, but that's okay. Number to call is area code 646-716-4667. Again, that's 646-716-4667. We'd love to have you join the conversation. And don't forget to email me any questions or comments about the program to ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And for some reason, if you want to come on the program and maybe you're in the golf profession, whether you're a teaching professional, a coach, or somebody that's in the business side of golf, and you want to come on and share some of your insight about the game, or maybe an interesting problem you want to share with my audience, I would be more than happy to entertain that possibility and set you into the schedule. So you can reach out to me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And as most of you know that tune in regularly, I keep you all updated on social media. So you can go to Facebook and go to Golf Talk Live blog. That's the home page. And I post the show each and every week with my guests and who's going to be on the show and a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. That's CEO in capital letters. And thank you to all of the recent followers on Twitter. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. As I said, I got a great Coach's Corner panel discussion coming up here. A guy that's been on here a number of times, no stranger to the panel, Pete Buchanan. He's the founder and director of instruction and owner of Plain Simple Golf LLC. The Plain Simple Golf, of course, houses the Plain Simple Golf circuit and Simple Swing Repeater training brace, two great devices. Teaching here over the last 30 years, Pete's been around the business for a long time, and really his approach is to simplify the golf swing. That's his philosophy, and in an effort to do so, make the game a little bit simpler for you folks out there. So always glad to have Pete on the panel. And new to the panel, but not new to Golf Talk Live, he was a guest a little bit earlier on, Mike Fay. He's the PGA Director of Player Performance at BOYNE Golf Academy, and he's got 20-plus years of teaching experience himself, and it's certainly easy to see with all that he's got going on why Mike has become a leader in the world of golf instruction. He dabbles in everything from cutting-edge social media networking techniques to having a mobile app as well. We'll talk to him a little bit about that throughout the program. He's really helped to make some great changes to the face of teaching golf. So let me bring the panel on. Mike and Pete, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Ted. Thanks for having us on again.
Thank you, Ted. Not a problem. Thanks, guys, for doing this as always. As I mentioned, I appreciate you guys giving of your time. Also, let me just very quickly before we start, guys, a little bit later in the show, I'm going to be interviewing, of course, Joseph DiChiara. He is a PGA Class A member as well, also on the advisory board for KVest and BodiTrak. He's on their advisory board as well. And he's actually going to be calling in from Thailand. He's over there right now working on a great junior program. We're going to talk a little bit about that when he comes on. That's going to be in the second hour following Coach's Corner, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And then also in between, I'm going to be talking about, some of you may recall from the last couple of episodes, the Thursday night of the Masters. Of course, I launched a great contest with my good friend Mr. Byron Casper, son of legendary Billy Casper. We talked about it's the Major Champions Couples Contest. It's for couples, obviously. And it's a great opportunity to visit the San Diego, California area and visit some great golf courses there and stay at a couple of very unique and interesting bed and breakfasts as well. That's all going to be included. And essentially the object of the contest, I'll get into more details a little bit later, is to pick who you think is going to win the Major Champions events this year, everything from the Masters right through to the PGA Championship. And for each correct answer, we're going to throw you into a hat, so to speak, and draw your name. And the winning individual, of course, his or her spouse is going to be able to go to San Diego and spend some great time there, compliments of the different facilities and so forth. But I'll read that a little bit later on. Guys, I want to get on to a specific topic that I touched base on a little bit before, before we came on live, and it's really about handicaps. There's still a lot of folks trying to break through the glass ceiling, if you will. We've seen everything from changes in technology, and despite these changes and advancement in teaching and coaching techniques, the handicaps remain relatively the same for many, many folks out there. So we're going to answer the big question why you feel that is, but we're going to also tackle some of the areas that I think contribute to that, everything from technology, teaching and coaching, equipment, even the golf ball, course design, and, of course, player participation and practice and so forth. So, Pete, I'm going to start off with you very, very quickly. Just maybe a brief overview of why you think so many people still struggle with sort of bringing those handicaps down.
Well, I think in an overall picture, if you can see what's out there, we've got technology that's increased. We've got biomechanical research. We have 3D type of research, launch monitors, all kinds of technology coming. The cameras are as good as they can get. And yeah, I think to a certain extent we lose a little bit of commonality in the instruction itself and pretty much in the simplicity of it. And I think the students sitting in the middle looking at all of this stuff going, well, I see all this technology, I see all this information, what do I do with it? And so what I've seen a lot of is, and I've been fortunate enough to work with John Jacobs and learn cause and effect, and I think a lot of that is not being taught as much as it used to be. So I think as a whole, the students are not getting the information they need to improve themselves and the understanding they need as to why they do what they do. And I think that's a big important piece that I see is missing in a lot of the instruction. Is it's great to, put all this out there. I use the technology myself. I'm not going to say I don't, but I think it needs to be back into a simplified process so that the students can understand exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, and most of all, how to fix it so they can fix it on their own.
Yeah,
so that's
well
what
said.
I've been doing.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And we're let me just preface this before, Mike, I get you to jump in here as well. I want to preface the conversation tonight. It's certainly not to, discourage anybody from using the technology or, adapting the technology, whether, if you're a teacher professional or if you're a student. We're certainly not saying you shouldn't use it, but there is a proper place for it and a proper way it needs to be used and articulated to the students. But what we want to do is we want to really examine, because there has been a lot of changes, Mike, as I know you're very up on a lot of the technology, also with social media and so forth. So you're right in the thick of things each and every day at the BOYNE Academy. And yet, with all of this great information out there, what are some of your reasons, do you think, that so many people still struggle with bringing down their handicaps?
Yeah, I think a big part of that, and I totally agree with everything Pete just said. Absolutely, I try to make sure that my students know why they're doing what they're doing and how to fix it themselves. And I think technology enhances that. There's no question. We have some of the best technology in the world at BOYNE with gears and TrackMan and all this stuff and TPI and everything else. I have the biggest improvements in players that are committed to coming back on coaching programs. And I think that, one lesson doesn't do it.
Right.
I think that coming and developing a relationship with your coach, that's a big part of what I do, Ted, with me through social media and things like that. Developing that relationship, spending some time on it, and, creating a holistic approach to getting better at golf. And I've seen huge improvements in players when we do that. Just one lesson just doesn't do it anymore, or, a couple. It's a commitment on the player's level to be able to play, more, put the time into getting better at golf. Though there are downsides to playing golf, right? I mean, it takes a long time to play golf sometimes, right? So, going in there and doing that and develop relationships is a huge part to lowering players' handicaps. Absolutely.
Yeah, and well said as well, Mike. I agree wholeheartedly with both of you. I think that there's a lot of great coaches out there, and not just, the top 5 or so, but a lot throughout the industry that I think have a general understanding or a good grasp of the technology. And I think for the most part, they're all using it in the correct fashion. And I'm sure there's some that maybe are struggling a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about technology. Mike, as you had mentioned, there's TrackMan and there's all kinds of Flight Scope and everything else out there. And you've got Pete, as you had mentioned as well. You've got camera technology, which is second to none right now. What should we be doing with that technology, and what shouldn't we be doing with that technology? Pete, I'm going to let you give your perspective, and then Mike, I want you to talk about that.
Well, I think from an overall standpoint, I agree with what Mike was saying. Technology is a huge help. There's so many different things that you can get the participants to see that they couldn't see before, simply from looking at all the different ball flights, characteristics that you can pull out, the slowed down video. And so I think it's a really, really good piece to have, that technology. And I think what's important is that when you use the technology, that it's presented in a fashion that, as we talked about before, it stays in a simple way of getting them to understand that we're using this technology, this is what the technology says, and this is how it's going to relate back to you and your impact and what we need to do to correct what's going on with your game. So I think if we can always use it in a fashion that really enhances their view of what they see and what they do, I think then it's a slam dunk to use the technology for without question. So to me, it's always about using the technology as an enhancement to what I already have seen. I'm an old school guy with coming from the ball flight of being taught by John Jacobs, but the technology is also there to assist in that, and to make sure that what we see is what we see, and trying to keep that then again to put it into a perspective for the student to best enhance what they're going to do.
Right. Yeah, I agree again 100% with that, Pete. Mike, let's take it from a slightly different approach. Is the information, here I am, I'm the student, and you've got me hooked up to every monitor and whatnot that's going on here, and all these figures are jumping at me, and all this visual keys are coming in. What do I do with it now? What do I do with this information? How do I process that? Obviously, you're going to be there guiding me through the process, but is the technology designed more to assist the coach, or is it more for the student to rely on? Yeah,
I mean, I think the technology, I I don't use technology in every time I see someone.
Right.
You know, that's just me. I just don't. I think it's used as a measurement device, not only to see if I'm doing a good job as their coach, but to see if they're doing a better job and show them improvement. You know, we can always show them on video, but when you show them numbers and things like that. So, you know, that's why I say, like, I might use TrackMan once every 4 times with a student maybe, just to see what's going on. So, I mean, it's not every shot, every swing I take a video, all that stuff, because I know that change takes time. And, you know, if we can, maybe the problem is you know, with their body and their golf fitness and things like that. So every person is totally different. You know, I don't have a mold to, you know, some sort of swing method or anything else that I'm trying to get someone to do. It's what they need to do for themselves. So the technology part of it helps me to measure and see what's going on and see what their progress is.
Yeah, and again, well said. I think one of the things, and Mike, I'm going to take a deep breath, Mike, because we're going to start back with you on this next part of the question. So just to mix things up a little bit, I think we're going to talk from the teaching and coaching aspect. And the reason why I want to start with you, Mike, is you made an interesting comment. You talked about really more of a coaching platform, and you know, it's not just sort of this one lesson here and there sort of philosophy anymore. And I think, you know, years ago it was a little bit easier to get away with that. But I think in today's society, I think if you want somebody to become a better player, there has to be a commitment, obviously, on the player's part, but also on the teach professional. They have to be willing to spend more time. And it's not just, you know, let's go up to the tee box here and let's see what you can do with the driver and so forth. There's a bigger commitment involved. So let's talk about some of the things that maybe need to change and maybe have been changing in the teaching side of things and coaching side of things. Are the days of you know, a lesson here and there, are they pretty much gone by the wayside? And or we're moving into a different phase of golf profession now?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it has, because we found out, you know, let's take an example, Ted. And you know, if my daughter goes and takes dance classes, you know, it's a number of classes to learn a dance. Yeah, it's not just one. And you know, any kind of junior golf instruction and things like that. So, you know, we've learned that it does take that time commitment to play better golf. There are some things that can be fixed in a few times that you see someone, but if you really want to get better, you need to find a coach and sign up with one and keep playing with one. So I'm seeing that trend amongst us. I'm seeing that, you know, the coaching programs that are coming out, and that not only are they just not coaching programs that say, okay, you sign up here, you get to see me on TrackMan once and this one.
Right.
No, it's what the player needs. You know, and when if that player, sometimes I might see someone and they might not touch a golf club for the first three sessions that I see them, because we're working on functional movement and being able to move better and things like that, you know, and then all of a sudden we introduce the golf club later. So, you know, it's totally different. Every player is different in their development, what level they are, how old they are, everything. It's pretty cool to watch when people get better, though. I mean, that's why we love to teach, right? So,
well, exactly. And you know, I think that the other thing too, Pete, that we run into, and I like what you said, Mike. I think it's right on. I think we have to. Sometimes it's not all about swinging a golf club. Sometimes there's other things that have to be discussed as well. And it's a process. You know, if you want to become a better player, number one, you have to be willing to make the commitment, and you have to be willing to put the time in and the effort in. And it's not just a matter of, you know, a coach or teaching pro saying, okay, you need to do this, or watch me doing this. You know, you need to get your hands dirty, so to speak, as well, and you need to get out there. And we're going to talk about practicing and stuff in a few minutes. But you know, Pete, one of the other things too, I think, with a lot of people. And even in the teaching side of things, is there has been sort of that one-size-fits-all for quite some time now, where let's get everybody into the same mold. Let's everybody's swing look the same. And the truth of the matter is, everybody's body type, I mean, from the three of us here, our body types are all different. So you might swing slightly different than I will. Yes, the general mechanics might be somewhat similar, and of course the fundamentals, but essentially the swings are going to be somewhat different from one another just because of our body types. Has that been a factor as well, do you think, in preventing people from getting their handicaps, is that the industry, or some in the industry, have sort of tried to mold that one-size-fits-all type mentality?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot to that. As instruction has evolved, I think you have to take that into consideration that, there are so many different body types. But I think from my point of view in looking at it, I look at it from an impact standpoint. So I'm trying to get the club and the balls relationship to work properly. And so I'm going to focus on getting that done in the quickest, most efficient, repeatable way I can get it done based on what my players are looking for. So I don't necessarily say I have a method other than the fact I'm trying to get the impact correct based on what I want. Now, I can look at it from, I want the face square, I want the path pretty neutral, and I want, a good level solid contact. And they might say, well, I want to hit, left to right fades. So, okay, well, then here's what we have to do. That's the impact that you're looking for. This is what's necessary. So I've always looked at it from an impact standpoint, but I think you are right. I think when you try to generalize the overall instruction and fit it into a mass of people, you're going to run into trouble because they're just not all going to fit. And I think to that point, I think so much of the instruction has been based on what the tour players are doing, and that's been a huge detriment to the masses because they can't do it.
Right.
They can't move like those tour players move. And so they can have the same impact control that a tour player can, but they can't necessarily do it under the same movements. And so I think you have to look at it to, if you want to, I remember a great quote by John Jacobs. He said, I can teach you how to hit it like Nicklaus, but you still have to learn how to play like he does. I mean, it's a great quote. But, you can, and that means I can teach you the impact that he has. And that's really where I think the crossroad is going to move forward. And I think what Mike was talking about with finding a coach, I think that's where it's going to move forward to getting it more impact-oriented and getting the changes to the impact and not necessarily worrying about all the different body functions that are out there. I think if we can get the impact right, the body functions will take care of themselves. I think they're going to be much happier, more consistent, better playing golfers for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think one of the concerns that I've had for a long time, and you're right, it's starting to move in a different direction now. I think the industry is starting to realize that there isn't this sort of one size, and you hit it right on the head, Pete, with your comment about sort of taking a step from the tour players. It's great to pick up little tidbits here and there, and it's great to showcase some of the tour players, certain aspects of their swing, but to try and mold somebody into a tour player that just doesn't have the ability and doesn't have the time to make that commitment is doing them a disservice. And I think that's, we watch these guys, week in, week out playing, everything from the Masters to whatever, events are going on in between that and the next major. But the problem is that these guys are out there every day, not only playing, but they're also practicing and working on different areas, not just hitting balls. They're working on other areas of physical fitness, training, and so forth, that they're able to overcome some of the hurdles that our average high handicapper can't do in, a weekly golf lesson. So, there's a lot of factors involved. And the next one, Pete, I'm going to go back to back with you on this one. We're talk about equipment. Has equipment helped in some ways, and has it hurt in some ways the handicaps of some of the golfers out there? And let's throw the golf ball in there as well with the changes there, because essentially it's part of the equipment as well. What are your thoughts on equipment?
Well, nowadays there's so much available in club fitting that it can't help but help the players. I mean, there's so many different combinations. The clubs can be adjusted so many different ways now, from, the drivers can be adjusted, fairway woods to things that you could never do before, other than, the old irons I started with, you hit about 6 shots and you had to check the lie again. Those things move all over the place.
Right.
Way back when. But, I know strictly for me, just this past January at the PGA show, I went through a fitting with one of the top fitters in the country. And just by, changing the shaft a little bit around from what I thought I should have to what should be there, it's an extra, 12 yards per iron. So,
Wow.
I think the technology today is so much better. There's so many different options that can be available, and the fittings are more readily available, especially with the ball flight monitors that can look at the technology to help the fitting. I don't think the equipment is a detriment to the handicaps. I think it's a help.
Right.
And the golf ball itself, too, goodness, the ball goes so darn far anymore. It should be a help for that, for how far they can hit it. It may be a case that, there's so many different types of balls that, it may take somebody, some time to find one that, suits them the best. I always try to keep it real simple. If you want to hit it further, make it harder. And if you want to spin it more, make it softer. So just depending on what you want to do. I always get the ones that are playing, top flight XLs who say, I can't back this ball up. I said, I don't think you can back it up in a pool, that ball, as hard as it is. So, it really depends. So, in that case, maybe the ball's a little bit, a detriment. If they already slice it, you don't want a ball that spins more because they'll curve it more. So, in that degree, yes. But I think overall, from an equipment standpoint, I think there's so much better than it has been, and there's so many different options. I think it's a great benefit for the players today. Yeah,
and I agree with that. And I think, Mike, Pete raised an interesting comment throughout his answer that I think that I want to approach it with you a little bit differently, and that is the fitting process. Today's technology is certainly more advanced. I think where the equipment is a detriment to one's handicap is a lot of people are going out and buying the latest and greatest equipment, but maybe not getting fitted properly. And I think that's really what maybe some of the cause and effect is not being properly fitted with the equipment you have. Do you agree with that? And if so, how do we help people to understand that it's not just about going out and buying, a new set of clubs. It's about making sure that you're buying the right set of clubs for you.
Yeah, we don't want to necessarily play with what Ricky Fowler plays with.
Right.
When we go through a fitting with players and using gears and the track band and things like that, there's no doubt, Pete, that we can increase people's distance and get them to hit it closer to the center of the face just with club fitting alone. But also, I'd like to make a point, too, that, we also have, our fitters are working with our coaches. So what is the player working on? What are we trying to do? They're, very interesting story. I have a player I've been working with for about 4 years now. And got to the point where, hey, I got to grab your driver and take the face from being a few degrees close to square because now we're hitting it better. Things like that have happened that I see, which is fantastic. So fitting is really good for the players as far as trying to keep the golf ball on the golf course. But at the same time, you got to work with your coach, too. Your coach has to look at it and see, I've seen a lot of players that, get fit into the standard lie clubs when they really should be, maybe flatter or more upright. See players that, clubs are too long or too short for them, things like that. And when they go and they buy it off the rack. So fitting is so important to helping your coach help you play better. You can't teach someone to run when they're in the wrong size shoe. It's tough.
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent point. If you look at most other, if you look at from a business standpoint, if you want to be an accountant, there are certain tools of the trade. If you want to be an auto mechanic, whatever the case, a welder, whatever the case is, there are certain tools that go in, and you want to make sure that you have the proper tools in order to do your job. You're not going to give an accountant a wrench and say, okay, here, do my taxes. Conversely, you're not going to give, the mechanic a calculator and, the latest IRS deductions and have them fix your car. So, you need to make sure that you're fitted with the proper tools. And even I think the selection of the equipment is important for the coach to be involved in. A lot of times we get caught up, again, Pete and you both have said, where we get caught up in seeing what Ricky Fowler or some of the other pros are playing, and maybe they're endorsing certain products, and that's fine, but that may not necessarily be the right product for you. And again, the manufacturers have so much available. I'm sure within that wheelhouse of that manufacturer you can find something. But just because somebody on tour is playing a forged iron doesn't necessarily mean that you should be playing a forged. Maybe you need something that's a little bit more forgiving, a little bit bigger club face. And the same thing, just because so-and-so is playing the number one, tailor-made driver doesn't necessarily mean that's the best fit for you. So there's a lot of components involved. And I think one of the areas, Pete, as I said, if they're not being fitted properly and just going out and buying it, that certainly can be a detriment to their handicaps, because they're just going to go out there and be flailing around the golf course, not hitting solid, shots and playing their best golf because they don't have the right equipment in hand. So, equipment, whether it be the ball or the irons or the woods, are certainly can be detrimental to the handicap if not properly fitted. Otherwise, you're right on the money, Pete. I think that once they've been properly fitted and had some good coaching in hand, then the sky's the limit. So I agree with both comments. The other area that I want to touch on a little bit before we wind it up with the players' participation themselves is course design. Has course design, and Mike, I'll let you start this one off, has course design been a little bit of a detriment, do you think, in the handicaps of some of the golfers out there? When I was growing up a little bit younger, you might be more familiar with this up in parts of Michigan, some of your traditional golf courses, something like a Pinehurst, for example. A lot of their facilities there are sort of your traditional design course. Then lo and behold, the Pete Dyes of the world and some of the others out there decided that they wanted to make courses longer. They wanted to make them a little bit more difficult. That certainly has been a major factor. Would you agree with some of the handicap issues?
Absolutely. You're seeing courses a lot of them over the last few years starting to soften their golf courses, right? And they have to, because, we used to think it would be fun to play something hard. Well, it's not fun. So we have to soften the golf courses and do all those things that it's more player-friendly to get more people to play. If someone has a bad experience, they don't want to come back. So, that's really important to course design, and I think things have changed over the last few years. Absolutely. Back in the 80s, that it was different, right? It was,
right.
Oh, we got to go play there. That place is tough, Well, it's not fun. So, softening up the golf courses is going to be more fun. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, and I think, Pete, one of the things that I would agree with there is some changes had to be made. And don't get me wrong, it's beautiful to see a lot of these great golf courses that have been built, and there were some great visionaries that had designs, and obviously they were building it more for, in their minds, I think they thought that the recreational player would love to come to these great resort courses, and that, which they certainly do. But as Mike suggested, a lot of them got there, and gosh, they were tough. And I think one of the ways of combating that initially was, well, we'll put some extra tee boxes on there, and they can just play from forward tees. But the truth of the matter is, when you've got, a dozen or so bunkers lining the fairway all the way up to the green, and you've got all kinds of rough and things to contend with that you didn't used to have, it can be pretty challenging for a lot of some of your high handicappers out there. And that certainly, as Mike suggested, has deterred a lot of people from having fun and wanting to come back. So, what are some things that I guess that you would suggest? You're not going to dismantle all of the courses. They're out there. What would you suggest to players out there that maybe have a tough time with some of these more modern courses to be able to handle and enjoy their game, but also to be able to score a little easier as well?
Well, first of all, we can start off by, you mentioned it yourself, there's more than one set of tees. The back tees at most golf courses are where the tour players would play from, and maybe the scratch players. Everybody else should move forward from there. I just turned 50 a little while ago, so I got to move up. I don't play back there anymore. The guys
Right.
in my age group play closer up. I always said, start on the front tees, and when you can shoot far, move back. So, I mean, by shortening the golf course a little bit, they can, make some of that more to their advantage. In some courses, by moving up, it takes a little bit of the trouble out of play from where they'll hit it. Whereas if they back up to the back tees, the trouble comes more into play for where they're going to drive it to. So I think it's a benefit for their own game. And I guess there's a little bit of an ego factor in there. I don't want to move up a set of tees, but I don't want to shoot 95 either, or 105 or 10 strokes above what I normally do, just because there's another set of. I'm looking back and there's more tees. So I think from a standpoint in that, they can move up to make the golf course fit a little bit better length. I always said, hey, if a tour player is going to hit a driver and a 7-iron in this hole, why don't you tee off on a tee box so you can do the same? So what tee is that? If you're really talking about trying to play it like the tour players play, then move up to where you can hit a driver in a 7. So, and then softening the golf course, a lot of that has happened. There's some of the bunkers have gone away. There's not as much trouble. And I think in a lot of the golf courses, they penalize the errant shots more because they were thinking, boy, if we get these tour players in here, we can really make it good, make it tough. You'll penalize those. And what they did is they took the average 20 handicapper and made them a 32, because it's just too hard. So I think they've come to realize that. I think, as Mike mentioned, the golf courses are softening up. They're getting a lot, I wouldn't say they're totally easy, but they're getting easier to play. And I just think they're just not so penalty-oriented anymore for the errant shot.
Well, I know from just from removal of trees, you guys. I mean, just removing trees, right? Trees have grown in. The golf course has gotten narrower, things like that. So, softening up and teeing it forward, absolutely. That definitely helps.
One of the things too, I can remember playing a number of years ago back home at a course, and hitting off an elevated tee. And you really couldn't see where your ball was going to land because it went down into a valley. And I remember playing it for the very first time, this particular course, and hitting what I thought was just the perfect tee shot right down, just a little right of center, which was the ideal spot. And when I got down there, it was way yonder on the left side, not in the fairway, but in the rough, because what I didn't realize is there was about a 40-degree grade from the right side of the fairway to the left, and even though I hit the right side, it just funneled into that, that collection area, and then of course ran through into the rough. So what I thought was, a good tee shot, ultimately ended up being a difficult second shot. And so I think the other thing that we have to look at, guys, is and both of you can chime in on this one if you want, is not just the design of the course, but the playability. And I think that when people come to a golf course, now if you're playing your regular home course all the time, you know the lay of the land. But if you're traveling, let's say you're coming down here south to Florida or out to Scottsdale and you're playing some course for the first time, grab a scorecard or talk to somebody in the pro shop and get an idea, get a lay of the land before you get out there and start, hacking around the golf course. Get an understanding where's the proper spot that you want to be laying up, or where do you want to position your tee shots? Because that's the other thing too, I think, guys, when you get out there in a golf course that you're not familiar with, you don't really know the holes very well. You get out there and you think, okay, I just got to put it down the center of the fairway. Well, center of the fairway may not necessarily be the best option. You may need to be left or right a little bit, or a little shorter or a little longer, depending on the circumstance. Mike, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, knowing the golf course is the more you play it, the probably easier it feels like it gets, right? So getting out there and having knowledge of where to place your shots at, even every day when the flag locations change, just knowing where you have to be on the greens, things like that, definitely help your score for sure.
Yeah, and Pete, I think you would agree as well. I think obviously the more the player knows the lay of the land, so to speak, I think that's going to give them an advantage. But what are some things that you try to do to get your students to really, obviously you're working on the mechanics and you're working on good contact in that, but when they're out on that golf course, what are some mental cues that you give them to say what they need to be thinking about when they're playing these holes? Do you say, okay, you need to look at where I want to position my shot off the tee, where I want to, leave myself, for that ideal second shot into the green? What are some of the things that you try to articulate to your students?
Well, what I do is I have them come up with a game plan for how they're going to play the golf course.
Right.
Take the scorecard. Nowadays, it's great. I mean, you can even get some great pictures of the holes, and you can really lay it out to the length of the holes. And I like to break the golf course into 6 3-hole events. And let's look at it 3 holes at a time. And depending on the level of player, I say, well, in these 3 holes, you should be, even par, 1 over par, 1 under par, depending on what your level is. And really break the holes down and look at it to where, if you're going to be greedy, don't be greedy on this hole, because you'll end up with 2 over what you normally shoot. And so I really like them to break it down, because I think not only by breaking it down, it gives them a game plan, but I think from a mental standpoint, it helps them to relax a little bit, because they have a plan of attack to go out onto the golf course to make it happen. There are sometimes I'll tell them, this is a short par 4, but there's no reason you should hit a driver off this hole. I mean, the fairway's narrow. There's a lot of trouble. And so your best bet is to hit a long iron or a hybrid instead. So it's really getting them to understand the golf course and what's going on and how it relates back to their own individual game, and just coming up with a game plan to make it work.
Yeah, you're right. Excuse me. Pardon me. You're exactly right. And it goes back to, what you said about Nicklaus earlier. I mean, you can teach them how to hit like Nicklaus, but you can't teach them how to play like Nicklaus. And, it boils down to their course management, how they're, their game plan, what they're going to come in to that round of golf for, and what they're going to do. It's not just about hitting and making solid contact. That's, again, works in with the tools and works in with the equipment. But you also have to have a strategy when you go out there. And I like the fact that you talked about 6 3-hole rounds. Here recently, over the last several weeks, Cindy Miller and I, of course, who co-hosts with me on the Women of Golf show on Tuesday mornings, we've interviewed a number of young Symetra Tour players who have indicated that's sort of a philosophy that they have, is that they break down the round into small mini rounds within the round, and it helps them focus on the very things that you talked about, Pete, is not just sort of looking at the overall round, but looking at it and breaking it into those components, those smaller components, allows them to be able to focus. Now, some of them don't do it in 3, some of them might do it in 6, but nevertheless, they break those rounds down, and that's how they build a strategy or a game plan, as you suggested, and have obviously yielded much better results as a result of that. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. I want to move on, because we're time's going by real quick here, believe it or not. The last 2, and I'm going to sort of wrap them in together, is player participation and practice. Mike, I'm going to go back to you here. One of the things that's happened here lately, we've looked over the last few years. If you look at any of the stats, and again, it depends on where you are in the country. Some areas may not be showing it as much as others, but player participation has gone down. The rounds of golf have gone down overall, and a lot of it, the culprit is time. People just don't have as much time, but also there's a cost factor as well. And I think that people are discouraged with some of the issues that we talked about here earlier throughout the evening. Some people have become discouraged. They're not maybe fitted with the proper equipment. They're playing on difficult courses, and they're just not having fun. So how do we encourage? What do we do to encourage as an industry? And what are you doing maybe specifically in your area to encourage people to come out and play more?
Yeah, well, one of the big things that we do at BOYNE is family fun days on Sundays, where we welcome families to come out and play our golf courses. Getting the kids out to play more. As far as me and my coaching, I'm out on the golf courses more than I ever have been with my players, which really helps them to get out there. As far as growing the game of golf and getting more people interested, myself, what I've been doing is connecting with my students more. There's no doubt, we had talked about it before, Ted, is, that thing that's in your hand is holding you back from playing more golf sometimes, which it is. Technology has kind of been a detriment to getting more people out playing golf. There's no doubt. but if I can stick it in their face, maybe they'll come out and play more golf, which is pretty neat that way through technology.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's sort of a pros and cons. Pete, please jump in here as well. You know, there's pros and cons to the technology. I'm not talking about the golf technology. I'm just talking about technology and social media and things like that has really stolen. And I think one of the problems that the golf industry is facing right now, and I think this is why they're trying to branch out into so many different areas with even reality golf and things like that, is they're trying to compete with a social media giant with Facebook and Twitter and all these other forms, Instagram, for people's time. And, you know, people in our age bracket, Pete, and even in yours, Mike, because I think you're a little bit younger than Pete and I, but, you know, we're under a different mindset. You know, we grew up around golf. You know, our parents, maybe our fathers, what have you, got us into golf, and sort of golf is in our blood, and we've taken on a different persona, if you will. But in today's younger generation particularly, it's extremely difficult to compete with all of the other distractions out there, and even other sports have become more aggressive as well. So in your estimation, Pete, what are some things that you're trying to do on your end to get people just to come out and try it and just to embrace golf a little bit more?
Well, I think a lot of it, you know, is taking advantage of that social media. I mean, for me, it's being able to get the word out to more people on a simpler basis. I mean, you take Facebook, take Twitter, you can get to a lot of people in a short period of time.
Sure.
And I use the technology to my advantage too, especially with all of my players, because I've teamed up with Edify, which is a great content space, and I've got all kinds of training spaces in there, and all of my participants are loving going through there and seeing all the videos we put out there. When they're practicing, if they forget something, they can pull it right up. So talking what Mike was saying, you know, put the technology right in their face. Yeah, I'm going to put it in there. Let's use it. I mean, we can't fight it, so let's use it to our advantage. How do we best get that technology for them to look at it? They can easily look at it when they're practicing and playing as they can when they're sitting at home on the couch. So I think if we can use it in a way that's going to make it more accessible for golf in itself, and to make the instruction a little bit more I'd say accessible to them that way with video analysis and recaps, and I'm always sending stuff to my players. I'm putting things in. I know Mike does the same, you know, putting quotes in and different videos and just saying, hey, what about this? What do you guys think about that? I think it's a really cool thing that we can use to use the social media to our advantage rather than trying to, you know, go negative on it. It's not going away, so we need to take full out advantage of all of that we can.
I mean, building that, getting those players, you know, interested, because it is. I mean, the technology is fantastic. I mean, things just like you said, Edify is awesome. I use it all the time, and it just keeps them coming back to you, and that's really what we want to do is keep players coming back playing golf, and always having it there helps. Right,
and you know, the other thing, and the one sort of negative thing I'm going to say about social media, and I know that you'll both agree with this when you hear what I have to say, but I think one of the things that is detrimental to this industry is using social media to vent, and I'm talking about some of the coaches out there, some of the instructors. We've all seen it in the groups, and that I think healthy discussion and debate is good, but I think that a lot of people in the industry need to be careful because as everybody knows with social media, once you put it out there, it's very difficult to reel it back in. So for any of you coaches and teaching pros that are listening to the program out there or may tune in at a later point, you know, it's okay to disagree sometimes with your fellow professional, but I think you also have to keep it civil, because it's not just you or I or Pete or Mike that might be following these groups. There's a lot of golfers out there that follow these groups as well on social media, especially Facebook and Twitter. And if you're getting into, you know, Twitter wars with your fellow golf teaching pro, and you know, because you disagree on certain technology or you disagree with certain philosophies, it can have a negative impact as well. And it certainly doesn't bear well for the industry as a whole. So that's a side of the social media I think that you both would probably agree with, that we need to really clean up And I would, one of the things that I really wish that even some of the associations, whether it be the PGA or the USGTF, needs to have a closer monitoring, much like business. I'll give you a good example. Most banks now, they follow social media very closely because they want to see what their employees are doing. I think the accredited organizations like PGA, USGTF, Titleist, and all these other groups need to closely monitor social media, because I think there are a lot of members out there that get into these discussions that are not always in the best interest for the industry. And I think they need to, rein them in a little bit and say, hey, okay to disagree, but let's not get personal in some of the conversations. Guys, what do you think about that?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. We see it all the time. There's several groups that I can name you two specifically where you can see it going on all the time. And, it's sad to see, whether they're right or wrong, and a lot of the things are just argumentative from just a standpoint of, well, I don't think that's right and I don't think this is right. But, I do think it needs to be more civil. I'm guilty. I've been in the middle of some of those conversations as well. I just think it's if we're going to truly grow the game and keep it moving forward, they need to see a camaraderie and a little bit better conversation for all of us throughout those pieces and social media outlets to keep encouraging the players to come and play and participate.
Yeah, and there has. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff, guys. But there's also a side where there's some sharing of information that's kind of important as well that we don't talk about. That as far as technology goes and things like that, that a lot of coaches are sharing, helping us become better coaches too. So, I don't agree with the arguing stuff, and you guys probably don't see me at all. I'm not on there arguing, and I'm on there learning, and that's where it's
and that's what
it has to be that way. And
right,
I kind of take it this way with it. Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I think it should be for. And I always think about this. What if your mom was reading this? What should she say? That's what I try and do, and then I have a lot of people that follow me that way, and that's the way I approach social media. So.
Yeah, and I agree. It's as both of you have said, and I've said many times, it's just like every other part of the technology out there. It's a tool that can be used for business. It can be used for socializing, whatever you choose to use it for. But it needs to be put in its proper context, and it needs to be done with an element of professionalism. And I think, for the most part, Mike, you're right. I think that for the most part, I think it is a great learning tool. But there is that small element out there that use it for other purposes, and I think we need to be careful of that as well, because it does not give a good impression. And I'm like you, I stay out of it for that very reason, because it can draw you in very easily if you're not careful. Very lastly, guys, because we've literally only got a few minutes left here, and then I want to give you guys a quick opportunity to talk about yourselves very briefly. But the practice, of course, Pete, that's another big area as well. Practice, people just don't put the time and effort in. Again, I know it's a time restraint for a lot of people. How can they make the most of their practice?
I'll start if you want.
Sorry, Pete. That's
what I've done this year is I have gone through. I started off the year with meeting with all of my participants. The first meeting was no charge, and I went through just a process of what do you want to do for 2016 and what are your goals. And we really looked at what they wanted to do, and then I have built, as going to the gym, I've built a workout for them to take what they want to achieve with the drills that I have. So when they go practice, you're going to do drills A, B, and C. And we were talking about Edgify before, which is great because all of my drills are out on Edgify. So they can pull those drills up at any time, anywhere they are to use them. And so they have a specific set routine that they run through. And I agree with what Mike was saying before. When they do this, their scores go down in a hurry. I mean, they really go down fast because they're getting consistent practice. They're repeating a lot of the different things that are necessary, and they're working on only the specific things that are going to improve their game the quickest. So that's what I've gone through, and I don't really do it any other way. You talk about the individual lessons. I don't really do those anymore. they're coming to me. We're going to sit down. We're going to put a program together because it's only going to benefit them more. So as far as practice goes, I give them a specific set of things to do, and some games are thrown in there to make it a little bit more fun. And, they're really having a great time, running through these drills. And it's also great for more questions because now it's more interactive out there on Edgify with me and my participants because they'll go through a drill and say, hey, man, I really like that one, but I have a question about this. And so now they're getting more active and more interactive with the practice and the questions and just more things coming to us. So I think it's a big deal to give them specific things to do. And, for me, my guys are like going to the gym. They got a workout to do. Here it is.
Yeah, that's well said, Pete, and I agree. I think you have to have a plan put together, a plan of action, if you will, and I think to do that at the beginning of the season like that to sort of rally the troops, if you will, and get them, thinking about what they want to accomplish in 2016 and then putting a game plan and then obviously putting it into motion. Mike, what about yourself? What are some things that you're doing very similar or what are you doing to get the folks out there and making the best use of the practice time?
Absolutely, yeah. I do a lot of the same things that Pete has been talking about as far as setting goals and things like that. And every player is different, depending upon what their goals are. And using things like Edgify. I also do and coach a lot of players that might see me only a few times a year, but then I am also online on Skype and FaceTime coaching them and things like that, which is unbelievable to be able to do that. Keep in touch with them and see, I might be in my, office here on Skype with a golf club in my hand teaching them, something. And that's pretty neat to be able to say you can do that. And, keeping in touch with them like that and helping them through their program, what they have to do to get better. Keeping up with them on their tournaments and things like that. Edgify allowing them it's not just one-way communication between the coach and the player. It's player to coach. That's a big deal when the player can send me stuff, right? They can send me stuff and I can look at it and they can send me their pictures of, and sharing in their successes and their tournaments and their scoring barriers that they break and all those things. All together, it's pretty cool. So I'm doing a lot of the same stuff that Pete is doing, online and embracing all the stuff that we do with social media and all that stuff. You have to change. You have to be able to change to make these players better, and that's how we lower handicaps. Yeah, so
you're good. Great way to end the segment. Thank you, guys, and. Mike, I'm going to, since you're still got some wind in your sails, as it were, I'm going to let you go first, and since you're a first-timer on the panel. But great discussion, and let me just very quickly say before you do that, the purpose of these discussions, I really want not just the high handicappers out there that are tuning into the program, but I want the other coaches and teacher professionals to listen to what others are doing in the profession, to maybe some things that you talked about tonight, guys, maybe they haven't used yet or not familiar with, or maybe they're using it and say, hey, yeah, I like that, and it helps to generate conversation within the industry as well. So that's the reason why I do these panel discussions. It's not just to teach people how to play better golf, but it's also to inform people within the industry to reach out and communicate with one another and exchange of ideas. And I've had many, many times on the program, professionals say, and link up with others that they maybe didn't know in the beginning but heard something of interest, and they'll communicate after the show. So that's the other reason why I do it. But, Mike, what are some great things that you're looking forward to doing up there in BOYNE, at the BOYNE Academy in 2016? Tell us, the folks out there, how they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. Yeah, the BOYNE Golf Academy, we've got BOYNE Resorts owns 10 golf courses here in northern Michigan. We coach at a couple different resorts. I am pretty excited about this summer coming on with our Nike Junior camps and everything else we got going at BOYNE. You can get a hold of me on my website at mikefagolf.com or check out everything that BOYNE has to offer at BOYNEGolf.com for the summer. We got some really cool programs getting ready, and it's a ton of fun. No better place in northern Michigan for the summertime.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area, that's for sure. And Mike, very quickly, you also have I know you have an app, and also you have a discussion of your own going on a weekly basis on Twitter. Tell the folks that might want to tune in or join in on that as well. How do they go about doing that?
Absolutely. You can send in questions for the Ask the Pro show. It's Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We do a weekly question and answer with some of the world's best commentators, instructors, and players in the game. I am very blessed that they love to help out with this. We really enjoy every week. It's such a great learning experience for everyone. We teach thousands of people golf every week. So you can check out my website, mikefeygolf.com, and there, if you click on the Ask the Pro Show tab, it'll explain the show and send in questions every week. So pretty neat stuff on Twitter.
Perfect. Great stuff. And Pete, how can the folks reach out to you and tell them a little bit about what you've got cooking for this year?
Well, I've gone to a more of a, as we talked about, more of a coaching platform, not only from the face-to-face, but also online. I've got players all over the world I'm working with now on a daily, weekly basis, just over the internet. And as Mike was talking about, watching a player hitting in England while I'm sitting in my living room while it's snowing outside is fun, giving them help. And so plainsimplegolf.com, PLANE, plainsimplegolf.com is where they can find me. The program, and for me, I have also my Simple Swing Repeater training brace that I invented, which is, making huge strides for players to lower their scores quickly, and it's intertwined into the program. And so they can find out all that information on there. But, the coaching aspect, I think, is really important, and it's taken somebody – getting them into a program, staying in touch with them, having them have access to me, which is a lot easier through the different apps and social media things that they can use. And it's just staying in touch with the players and just having greater access to what's going on. And I think it's really making a big impact for players. And the great part about the social media is they can reach me from anywhere. Same with Mike. All over the world they can find us, and we can help them out. We can stay in touch, and so I think it's a great thing for people to take advantage of.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And again, guys, thank you very much for joining me on the Coach's Corner panel tonight in Golf Talk Live. Pete Buchanan and Mike Fay, two great professionals in the golf industry that have joined ranks this evening to help us talk about a few areas that could maybe help lower the handicaps out there. We've talked about everything from technology right through to practice, and you guys have given some great information out there, not only for the high handicappers out there, but also for your fellow teaching professional and coaches out there, that maybe they can pick up some tips as well and share that information with one another, because that's really what it's all about here. Thanks, guys, for joining it. Much continued success, of course, for the beginning of 2016, and I look forward to having you guys back on the Coach's Corner panel and as my guests in future on Golf Talk Live. Thanks, guys.
You bet. Thank you, Ted. Great being on, and great being on with you, Mike.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks, guys, and have a great evening.
You too.
Okay, those are my guest panelists, Pete Buchanan and Mike Fay, on the Coach's Corner panel tonight in Golf Talk Live. And before I bring on my next guest, who I see is waiting in the wings here, I want to remind everybody, of course, number one, of course, we're live every Thursday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And if you're interested in coming on the show, if you're in the golf industry, whether you're a teaching professional, coach, or somebody that maybe has a great product or business that's in the golf industry and you want to come on and share it with my listeners here on Golf Talk Live, you can reach out to me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. I wanted to, as I said, before I bring on my next guest, I wanted to very quickly just give a recap on the Golf Talk Live. This is the first contest that I'm running here in the program. It's called the Major Champion Couples Contest. And I'll first tell you what you'll win if you're lucky enough to win the contest, and very quickly how to play the contest. What you win is this. It's at 2 nights. The first night is at a bed and breakfast at the Hacienda Hotel in Old Town, San Diego. That also includes golf for 2 at the Salt Creek Golf Club out in the San Diego, California area. The second night is also at a bed and breakfast at the Palm Mountain Hotel and Spa, and that includes golf for 2 as well at the Encina Golf Club. In addition to that, you'll have lunch at the Old Town Tequila Factory, which of course is hosted by my good friend Mr. Byron Casper. Byron is, as most of you know, an international PGA member, instructor, and son, of course, of the legendary professional Billy Casper. Fortunately, he's no longer with us. But he's going to host a lunch at the Old Town Tequila for the couple that wins the contest, Tequila Factory, and who knows, you might be able to sample some of the great tequila that they host at the Old Town Tequila Factory. So that's going to be hosted on one of the days by Byron Casper. And also, Byron is throwing in there a copy of Billy Casper's last book, The Big Three and Me, which I have a copy of, and it's a great book. It talks about some of the challenges, some of the great stories that he shared playing up against the three greats that he competed, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and of course Gary Player, hence the name Big Three and Me. So he's going to throw in a copy of that for the winning couple. So the value of the prize, of course, is just in excess of about $1,000. The way you play the Golf Talk Live Major Champions Couples Contest is this. Obviously, the Masters is past us now, but there were 4 major championships this year. What I need for you to do is to submit who you think via email to golftalklivecontest@gmail.com, who you think is going to be the winner of each of the majors. Now, you can send them individually for each major, or you can send them all at once, however you want to do it. I would suggest doing it individually. Gives you more chances. You can only have one chance per major championship. But you email who you think is going to win. You have up until midnight Friday of each of the events to submit your guesses for the various championships. The U.S. Open, of course, is coming up next, then the Open Championship overseas, and then, of course, subsequently the PGA Championship, which will come up in August. But submit your emails with who you think is going to win each of the events, and then the winning selections are going to be essentially thrown into a hat, and in the week following the PGA Championship, the Thursday following the PGA Championship, Byron is going to be coming back on the show, and we're going to draw the lucky winner, and you'll have an opportunity at a chance to win really some great accommodations and some great golf, a couple of rounds of golf, and of course you'll get to read the late Billy Casper's last book, The Big Three Me, which is, I can guarantee, if you love golf, you'll love some of the great stories that Billy has put into this book. But do that. Submit your entries to golftalklivecontest@gmail.com. Again, no later than the midnight Friday of each of the upcoming majors. And you can certainly submit them now if you want, but that's the deadline for each of the majors. And as I said, Byron and I will be reading out the winner of that following the Thursday following the PGA Championship. So jump in, guys. It's open to everybody, including those in the golf profession. So if you're a teacher professional or somebody in the golf industry, you're welcome to participate in the contest as well. Okay, my next guest coming up here, I see, as I said, he's waiting in the wings, Joseph DiChiara. He's a PGA Class A member, as well as the Director of Education for K-Vest. He's the IPGA Managing Director of Instruction, and he's on the advisory boards for both K-Vest and BodiTrak. Won several certifications, number of awards. He's TPI Certified Level 3 Golf Mechanic. He's TPI Certified Level 3 Golf Coach, as well as Level 3 Junior Coach, Level 2 Fitness, Level 2 Biomechanist, Level 2 Medical, and he's also TrackMan certified as well. And he was a top 50 national junior coach in 2011, 12, and 13, and he was the New Jersey PGA Junior Golf Leader back in 2012. And he's calling me from over in Thailand, so let me bring on my very good friend, Mr. Joseph DiChiara. Joseph, welcome.
Hey, Ted. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for calling in tonight and being my guest on Golf Talk Live. I had a few quick announcements to get out of the way before we ran a little bit late in our earlier session, so I apologize for keeping you waiting. Joseph, let's just to update the listeners tuning into the program tonight, let them know where you are now and just a brief overview of, and we'll get into a more detailed discussion, but a little brief overview of where you are and why you're there.
Sure, not a problem. And first of all, thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to speaking to everybody this evening. As Ted mentioned, I'm currently in Bangkok, Thailand. I relocated here. I guess I've been coming here on and off for over a year now, but relocated full-time about 6 months ago to take the role as the managing director of the International Preparatory Golf Academy at the American School of Bangkok. And we have an academy over here that is modeled much after some of the full-time academies that you see in the United States and mostly in Florida, such as the IMG Academy or Bishopsgate Golf Academy, things like that, where juniors can come from around Asia and come to the school and receive full-time schooling at an American school through American curriculum, and as well as our IPGA program where they get full-time golf training in order to achieve college scholarships or play professionally.
Yeah, and I mean, what an exciting opportunity for you, and I know we're going to talk about really the opportunities for a lot of people in the industry that are going to, the doors are going to open, I'm sure, as time goes on, and this is what you're working towards to really develop the market over there to be much more competitive and obviously raise the level of the game, if you will, in Thailand. One of the things that let me just very quickly, on a personal note, Joseph, I noticed recently here on social media that you and your wife are celebrating an anniversary, so happy anniversary. And
Thank you.
I saw you sharing a toast together with a beautiful backdrop. I'm assuming that is of Bangkok, and so congratulations
Correct.
to both you and your
Thank
wife
you.
on that anniversary. All right, let's talk about your academy. Really is focusing around junior golf, correct?
It is. That is correct.
Okay, let's talk about the development there as it stands right now and what you're hoping to accomplish with this academy.
Absolutely. So I think there's two approaches that we're taking. One at the academy, and then one I'll speak about that I am launching with a couple other industry professionals over here to even further the exposure of junior golfers from this part of the world. In a sense, we'll start with the academy. Up until now, juniors in Asia have been restricted a little bit in terms of the level and the quality of instruction they were able to receive in terms of a long focus, meaning there really was no entity over here that focused on LTAD, what's called long-term athletic development.
Right.
The golf instruction over here as a whole is still a bit old school in its mentality in terms of just 1 hour golf lessons, a couple times a week or whatever it might be, but there's never been a periodized program put in place for a junior golfer to help them achieve their goals, whether it be collegiate golf or professional golf. So that's really what we're focusing on at the IPGA. And to form a little bit more of an awareness and a partnership with the golf parents, which I think, in my opinion, is the most important piece to all of this, because the juniors, again, they just want to get better at golf. They love golf. Most of them hopefully will love it for the rest of their lives. It's just educating and getting the parents to become aware that it's not a sprint, it's more of a marathon. It's not a sprint to get to the tour is what I tell the parents, but it's a marathon to have your child have a long-lasting career with very little to no injury. So that is a bit of a paradigm shift over here in the way that the mentality is. It's very much to push early on. So we are trying to change that, at least with the parents at the IPGA right now. And we actually have what we've formed a parent checklist is what we've done at the academy. So everybody at the academy has a role. The coaches have a role, the juniors have a role, and the golf parents have a role. So we put out a checklist, and actually it's almost like a mini contract where we ask our parents to provide 3 things for us to support us. Just to provide unconditional love and support for their child, reward effort and not outcome, and focus on the positive in the juniors game and not the negatives. We explained to them a little bit about what neuroscience has told us and what we found, in other areas where the human brain remembers bad things 3 times as easily as good things. So we have to emphasize the good instead of the bad, because the bad is going to stay there for a longer period of time, just as a habit of humans in general. So these are some of the things that we ask our parents at the academy on the instructional side. And then to take that one step further, as I mentioned, myself and some other fellow professionals over here, we are trying to give, or at least launch a platform that will allow juniors over here to have greater exposure to college coaches in the United States without having to spend a lot of money to come over to the United States and play an AJGA event or stay the entire summer to even get recognized by college coaches. So just very quickly, we are starting a junior ranking system that will be specific to Asia. We're going to be working with, at least to start, the 10 countries in the ASEAN network in Southeast Asia to recognize some of the events in each country as ranked events. That's step 1. Step 2, we're going to start and form a standardized combine assessment for juniors in Asia that we will send out and put into a portfolio format for them and speak to college coaches if they're interested in some of these players. And then as a final step or a later phase, we're even going to put in place some streaming capabilities. So if coaches want to watch the combine or in the future want to watch these tournaments, they should have the capability to do that.
Yeah, and I like, you raised a very interesting point because, again, you're in a market that isn't familiar. I mean, over here in the United States, of course, most people that have juniors that have gotten into golf, they understand there's a certain curriculum. They understand there's a certain format. The parents are, for the most part, are fairly educated on the procedures and the process, and there's a wealth of not only great golf coaches to sort of help navigate them along, but able to guide them in the proper direction they need to go. Where you're dealing right now, it's still fairly foreign to them. So you're not just providing great opportunities for instruction and higher level instruction, but you're offering them really a path to that next level should they desire to go that route, essentially is what you're saying, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I like the fact, that you're doing that, and it really, there's a lot of areas that golf can develop and grow, obviously here in the United States, but there's a lot of other markets that have virtually been untapped. And that's not to suggest that, in Thailand that they've, never heard of golf or they don't understand, but it's at a much more rudimentary level compared to what we're dealing with over here and maybe even in parts of Europe. So really what you're doing is quite groundbreaking.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's absolutely correct. It's not that golf is unknown here. Actually, golf is quite big in Thailand. As far as it goes in terms of the other countries in this region, Thailand is actually the most advanced country in terms of the other ones in this area. But still, even in Thailand, they're still focusing on your traditional technical aspects of the golf swing only, and they feel that those are the only areas that need to be that they need to be concerned about to reach a very high level. So with our academy and with this platform, we're going to start to introduce many new ideas to parents, coaches, as well as juniors that will take them beyond just coming into a 1-hour golf lesson and fixing a close club face at the top of their swing. We're talking more about the learning process and what it takes for a junior to walk a path to mastery is really what we're trying to relay to these parents. We're giving them the understanding that golf is just like any other learned skill that their child is learning, whether it's in school or whether it's outside of school. It's not something that you can just tell them to hit it at that target and expect them to do it without having the background skills to back that up and be able to complete that task. So we're taking a step-by-step approach. We're identifying that, yes, technical skill is very important to play golf at a high level, but it's only one piece of this this road to mastery. We're teaching them more about how the brain learns, how to practice properly to transfer skill from practice to the golf course, how to not push your junior too much and actually time it so that they peak at the right times in the bigger events that they're playing in, and just things along those lines that it's still very new to them, where they don't quite understand that pushing a lot in the beginning might not be the right approach.
Right. Yeah. There has to be a balance in anything that you do, and I think one of the things, and this brings me to an interesting point that I want to ask you, because you really have a unique opportunity here to work with the parents. One of the concerns that has sort of come about here in the United States, and it's certainly not in every case, but there are instances out there that some documented, others not, where the parents there's too much involvement in the process, and either it results in burnout with the kids, or it becomes too much interference between coach and parent. What are you doing to sort of alleviate that while communicating with the parents? Obviously, as you said earlier, there's sort of a contract. There's a certain involvement you want the parents to be there, but at the same time, there's a time and place that you want them to back off and let the powers that be, the coaches and whatnot that are working with these students at the academy, to step in and deal with some of the things that need to be taught.
Yeah, it's a great point, Ted, and I think that's that's the holy grail of questions, at least when it comes to junior golf at this point.
Right.
It's definitely easier said than done, and I'll just fill you in at least on my approach, where step one is really the education and awareness. I think every parent loves their child and they just want the best for their child, and
Sure.
they're only doing what they know to be the best way to get their child to succeed. But that again, it's hard to say to the parent, but those types of things, when you have to talk to a junior about a poor tournament or something like that, there's right times and right places and right people to do that. And some of the times the parent's not the right person to do that. Most of the time it's not right after a tournament. And that's kind of the approach that's being taken that I see a lot. The parents at the tournament, they're pushing the child, and as soon as they get in the car to drive home, the parents asking the junior questions about, why did you miss that shot? Why did you do this? Why did you, it's just it's a barrage of questions where at that point the junior doesn't even want to think about golf anymore. So that is
right.
the worst possible time to bring things like that up. You should just let it sit for a little while and then start with some of the positives that happened.
Yep.
What did they learn in the tournament? Things like that. So, like I said, circle back around, the quote-unquote contract that we have drawn up lays out the responsibilities of the parents. And I make it very clear that the parents are not allowed in the performance center when instruction is occurring. They're allowed to stay outside. They can ask questions to me or our other 4 coaches on the staff. We're happy to inform them about what we're doing and what our plan is for their child, but they have to communicate directly to us. And that's another thing. A lot of the times I see parents asking the junior about what's going on and what they're doing, and a lot of the times, just like many kids, they might not give a full answer, or they're going to leave things out, and then the parent thinks that we're not doing a good job, and it's just lost in translation. And that's why we stress communicating directly with the parent. They take a supporting role, not a lead role. We are the lead role in instruction, and we're even implementing things where we do parent nights, where we give free golf lessons to the parents of juniors in our academy, so that they can see firsthand that, not that we're trying to prove to them that we're smarter or anything like that. They're they all have their own professions, and if someone's a lawyer or whatever it might be, I'm not going to tell them how to do their job, but we're just trying to show them that we do have a higher level of knowledge in terms of how to implement the information specifically to their child instead of, like they might be doing in many cases, is going to watch YouTube, finding something that might look like what their son or daughter is doing, and then trying to apply it to them just arbitrarily because they think it might help them.
Yeah, and that's a great point as well. I think really the sort of ideal situation is to have the parents more as the cheerleader, if you will, to encourage them to talk about some of the positives. And I think the juniors are more apt to open up to their coach where some of the areas that they need more improvement or more work. And it's really the coach's job, I think, to really point out some of the areas that need that improvement or need more work. Because the juniors are more apt to listen, I think, to the coach than they are their parents. And that doesn't mean that their parents don't play an important role, but I agree with you. I think that really is the role of the coach to get into some of the, and I hate to use the word negative areas, but some of the areas that the students or juniors are having difficulties with. I think it's really a better application to have the coaches and professionals working there rather than having an overzealous parent getting there and sort of nipping like a hound at the heel. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. and the parent plays. Yeah, the parent does play in my opinion, the largest role. And that's the role of supporting their junior to achieve their goals. And I'll give you a quick example, and it's a perfect example for what we're talking about. And unfortunately, it's the rarity right now, but I'm hoping to change that. We have a junior who's starting at our academy in August in the next term. And long story short, the father of this junior, they're from the Philippines, and the father of this junior was so unhappy with the level of coaching that he was able to find in the Philippines that he went out and he bought a K-Vest, he bought a TrackMan, and the way we met is that I was the director of education, still am, for K-Vest, and was teaching a certification that he was on. So I was teaching him how to read these graphs and how to train his son on his own because he had no other option. And now this comes full circle. His son now is 15 years old. He's going to be coming to the IPGA in August, as I mentioned, as a full-time student. And the father feels so relieved now, and he's become our biggest cheerleader and has since recruited about 3 more kids to come to our academy next year because he understands, the level of coaching that we're able to provide. He just knows that from the certifications and what he learned on those K-Vest certifications. And he feels a sense of relief now, he said, that he can turn his son over and know that his son is going to get excellent coaching. He's going to get opportunities to U.S. to go to college. And it's an extraordinary story because the father has done a great job up until now. And when I say this junior is accomplished, he just won the IMG World Qualifier in the Philippines, opening round up with a 65. So this junior is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Has so much talent. He's going to be able to go to D1, no problem, high level D1, and this is a perfect example. Now, unfortunately, not every child has or every family has the financial means to buy a K-Vest or to buy a TrackMan to do those types of things. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to, again, grow the awareness and let parents know that this is available to them now in Thailand at a fraction of the cost of what it would take to send them to the United States to go to an academy such as this in the United States, and also being able to keep your child a little bit closer to home, in the high school years before they go away to school and get a little bit older and can handle living abroad, possibly.
Yeah, that's I like that. I like the idea, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the program tonight. We talk about all different aspects of golf and things like that, but and how we can grow the game here. But really, you're creating a unique situation, as you said. Thailand obviously is a very large golf market, but there's certain elements that aren't quite up to the level that they are here, and you've been given an opportunity along with your partners there to be able to share that. And, as you said, this particular father that you just spoke of, obviously has the financial means, but there's a lot of folks out there that maybe don't have those means to be able to have their kids come over here, right, at least at this point. So now you've created an opportunity to let them have that same exposure, as you said, at a fraction of the cost, right in their own sort of home turf, and I think that's fantastic. Let's talk about, since you've already mentioned technology here, let's talk about technology and really how you're implementing. What we had into discussion earlier on the program, a little bit about technology, and there's obviously pros and cons. I mean, the technology is great. There's no problems with that. How do you leverage it in the learning process? How do you make sure that you're not overwhelming the students with this technology, and that it's proportionate to giving them the best opportunity at being successful at mastering, their game, without, again, flooding them with numbers and imageries and things like that becomes overwhelming? How do you find that balance?
It's a great question. Obviously, that's a bit of a hot button topic right now in the industry. And as you mentioned in the beginning when kind of introducing me and my background, I'm sure everybody on here knows that
right.
I embrace technology fully.
Sure.
I think it's done more for the golf industry than really anything else in the most recent years with the invention and the usage of things such as 3D motion capture, force plates, things like that. All of it is phenomenal, the launch monitors and all of that. But you have to basically, in my mind, I'll actually use what we're using as a tagline with K-Vest right now. The company just basically rebranded itself, and we're using a tagline called Measure Then Act. And what it stands for is measure, assess, coach, and train. So what that means is technology is perfect for measurement. Okay, they're measurement devices, and it's the coach's job to be knowledgeable enough on that measurement device to know what the information means in relationship to their students. It's not up to the student to know. That's
right.
I think I would stress that as the first big piece. But then going beyond measurement, to not become really technology, you have to implement the ACT piece, the assess, coach, and train. So once you've measured a student with whatever it is, TrackMan, launch monitor numbers, 3D K-Vest or BodiTrak or whatever it might be with their pressure in their feet, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're measuring,
right.
take those numbers, and then you have to assess what those numbers mean to your student. You have to assess the situation. Figure out, okay, is this player moving in this way? Are they hitting the ball that way based on physical limitations? Is it because of a concept that they've heard from a previous coach? Is it a previous motor pattern that they've developed that we now need to change? Whatever it might be, you're assessing that client's situation. Then you have to coach your student. Then the coaching piece is your communication to the student about what you've assessed. So you're basically communicating them, here's where you are today, here's where we want to go ideally, and this is what it takes to do that, to get from point A to point B, which is the training piece. Training is what swing drills are you using with the student? How much are they practicing? What are they focusing on when they're practicing? What is their intention? And then from train, once you've trained for a certain amount of time that you've deemed to be adequate to make the change that you want to make in their motor pattern or whatever it might be, then you circle right back around to measure again with the technology to confirm if your previous cycle was successful or unsuccessful. And if it was successful, well, then you make your changes, your adaptations, and then you go through that circle again. Or you make changes if it was unsuccessful to make your next loop more successful. And we call that the learning loop. It's really the way a student learns. You measure, you assess, you coach, and you train, and then you just repeat.
Yeah, and I think part of the difficulties in the industry right now, as you talked about, it's sort of a hot button of conversation. I think one of the things, and I've mentioned this many times, I'm like you, and I make no bones, but I'm all for technology. I think it's great. I think it certainly has. I think what has happened is that sometimes too many people have gotten so wrapped up in the technology that they're sort of forgetting why they're there, and they're throwing that information too quickly at the student, and not really sort of, I mean, really, if you think about it, the technology in most cases is really designed as a tool for the coach to be able to make assessments and understand what the student is doing and how they can then take that information to help them. And I think what's happened in the industry for a while is that information was sort of then transferred to the student at such a rate and at such a velocity, if you will, that it overwhelmed and essentially confused the students. They didn't understand all of the components because really it was meant for a teaching tool and not meant as a visual aid for the student in every case. I mean, some cases it was, but other cases it wasn't. So I think there has to be sort of a happy medium and a happy marriage, if you will, between using technology for the coach and then what information you relay to the students. And I think you obviously have a great grasp on that, being involved in the industry at the level that you are, and have an understanding of what the proper usage of that technology is.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. And I say this to a lot of coaches, because obviously most of the people coming on certifications for KVES are golf professionals, not parents. That's a rare case. But so I do relay my thoughts to coaches quite often that, and this goes for golfers as well that are tuned in listening, that if a coach cannot take a number, whether it's from TrackMan or KVES or whatever it is, if a coach cannot take a number and convert that into a feel or a cue of a feel, and then give you a drill or an exercise to do to enhance or change whatever that feel is, they're simply and unfortunately using the technology as a safety net and don't have a deep enough understanding of the numbers to be able to get that student better.
Yeah, and that's what we've talked about many times in the past here on the show is finding that balance point. That information can be extremely valuable especially in a coaching format. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, really that's where the industry has moved into, is more of a coaching platform as opposed to, 1 or 2 lessons a week. And that's what you're trying to do, where you are now is to become a more effective and better quality player. You have to commit some time. It's not just a matter of, come out and fix that hook and fix that slice. There's other components to becoming a better golfer, whether you're playing at a tour level or a D1 college, or you're just out as a recreational golfer having fun. Whatever your level of golf enjoyment is dictates, how much you want to invest into it. But the key is, and I think this is what I try to do with the show, is engage in conversation. When we had earlier here on the show, I had my Coach's Corner panel, which I have every week. And, I have coaches from all over the United States that come on the show, and we talk about various topics. And tonight happened to be, one of the key issues in the masses, if you will, is that the handicaps have pretty much, leveled off over the years. They're not getting better for a lot of golfers out there, and a lot of them have gotten frustrated and aren't making those commitments. So this is an area. One area is the technology I think has been misused in some cases to the point where it's actually shied away a lot of golfers. So I like your approach that you've talked about, and it's the right approach really, is you've got to find that balance point and make sure that the coaches are being trained properly and understand the proper uses of the technology that they've been given.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Let's talk about the academy itself. So, a student coming into that academy, talk a little bit about the experience. What are they dealing with right from the get-go? What's sort of the game plan, or is it sort of customized to each individual student based on their levels and what they're looking to accomplish? How does the academy work?
Sure. Well, we have obviously different programs to accommodate different levels of students, where we do focus primarily in terms of what we're trying to recruit, the more elite junior, the one that is, let's say, just entering high school, that's played golf, that probably is shooting, anywhere in the, even in the 80s, things like that. Just a junior that's already been introduced to the game is where our primary focus is. And that junior, if they came into the academy, the experience would be that of just entering any school at the American School of Bangkok. So they go through the admissions process. They go through the admissions process for both the American School of Bangkok as well as the IPGA. We have a test, a proficiency test to be able to qualify to get into our academy. And it's really more based on the personality and the willingness of the junior more so than skill, just to put that out there. But they'll go ahead and come in, and then once they're accepted, our performance center is right on the campus at the American School of Bangkok. So you literally walk out of your classroom building and you walk across a little walkway, and you're right at the performance center. And then if you just walk down from there down a side road or whatever it might be, a pathway at the school, you're right at the dormitory. So everything is very close. It's very secure. We're in a gated community, so it's set back much off the highway. It's in a very safe, quiet location, located right on Green Valley Country Club. So we have a golf course directly adjacent to the school where we have our own golf carts, and we shuttle juniors straight to the golf course on the days that we're playing, and when we're practicing over there, we do the same. And then we also have our own dedicated short game range right across the parking lot on the campus. So juniors can go over. We have a full grass tee hitting area. We have over 1,000 square meter putting green for chipping, pitching, and putting. And then we have a wedge green that can accommodate up to 120-yard shots. And starting next year, we're building some new tees to be able to accommodate up to 145-yard shots into that green. That's what's coming next. And then in our master plan, we have a large-scale build-out for a fully covered, shaded, I guess you could call it short game area where we'll have bunkers. We already have bunkers outside, obviously, over by the short game area, but the new area will have 40-foot ceilings so that it's always in the shade, and that the juniors can practice. It gets a little bit hot in Thailand, so it's going to be able to protect them from the sun and the heat, so that we can enhance our learning experience. And then we're also building out our performance center. Right now we have 2 bays. We have a TrackMan. We have obviously a few K-vests, but we're going to build that out to have 4 or 5 bays, as well as multiple TrackMan units, and again, building out the technology in the coming years.
Wow, it's fantastic. And it, as I said, it's certainly an exciting time for you right now, because you're in a market, as I said, that, and as you pointed out, is certainly very golf inducive and very golf friendly, but just haven't had the same level of instruction that's currently available over here, and it's created not only an opportunity for people like yourself to be able to go over there and share that experience, in an outside environment, but also give them the opportunity to have access, here to a much larger golf market and abilities to be able to get involved into going to a great school. And hopefully, making it on to the teams and beyond from there. Now, you also we've talked about, and tell me, or what can you update me a little bit? There's also a tournament coming on for juniors in that area as well, coming up. I believe you said November. Tell me, what can you tell us about that, and where does it stand right now?
Yeah, we're working to secure some sponsors for what we want to call the Junior Golf Prodigy Tournament in November. There will be some form, whether it's the Golf Prodigy Tournament or not, there will be some form of a high level of tournament in Thailand in November. whether we do it by this route or whether we start to introduce this junior ranking system first, where juniors can enter into a series of events and compete and get ranked, and we will obviously showcase that to college coaches in the U.S. Based on them being members of our site and having access to not only the junior scores but also their combine results, and we will also do interviews for juniors so that the coaches can start to see their personality, in terms of understanding who the junior is and why they might want to recruit them for their team. Because another thing that is a little bit unknown over here is that, coaches are going to recruit juniors just as much based on personality than they are on skill. Right,
exactly. And I also know too that you've talked about really not just providing a great facility, but also helping some of the coaches that are over there right now that are from Thailand to elevate their abilities as well. That's part of the agenda with what you're doing as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. With my background, obviously, with KVES, I do have a passion for education and teaching teachers, if you will, how to get their students better, make more money, whatever it might be, enhance their career. So that's certainly something that I am doing over here and going to start to implement a little bit more to the instructors that want to get better. Because we're at a point over here where, I would call it, and I hate to use this term, but it's pretty appropriate. We have a very distinct old school, new school going on over here, where the old school coaches, there's no way they're going to even look at technology. But we do have an emerging group of young professionals over here that are hungry to learn, that are buying technology, and they just, unfortunately, don't have a lot of access to information. So they're getting their information from YouTube. They're watching as many videos of coaches that are, again, teaching teachers, whether it's the great work being done by Michael Jacobs or Brian Manzella or those guys. These coaches over here are trying to learn. They just need to know where to look. So that's what I'm helping them with. I'm trying to guide them as to, hey, what's a good thing for your career? Is it good for you to go get TPI certified? Introduce the body swing connection aspect into your coaching, things like that, so that they can start to navigate their careers a little bit better and become more successful.
Yeah, and I like that idea that, that, again, it all boils down to, and one of the nice things about the golf industry is, everybody's willing to sort of share information. It's not, if you come out with something tomorrow that is going to benefit golfers, you're able to share that information. It's not, well, hey, this is all about me. One thing I like about the golf industry is they're very quick to share that information with one another, and you're doing a fantastic job, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, is to share some of the platforms that you're trying to create with what you're doing. You've already done some phenomenal work here over the United States, but you're now taking it a step further and branching out, if you will, and sharing that information not only with your fellow professionals, but also with others around the globe, and I can really see this blossoming into a very interesting project that is going to do some great things. I can see that happening down the road.
I appreciate that, Ted. That's obviously our goal right now. We're really at the beginning stages. The academy only opened in August, but we can see that we're starting to get a bit of a snowball effect with signing up 5 new students, which gets us to a total of 20 now already. Just in our first year of operation. So, and again, we're not looking to explode this into a huge academy. We're really only looking to keep it, to 50 students or less, to keep the quality at a level that it needs to be to develop these juniors. But again, if this academy does well, then, who knows? There might be a need for more. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I can certainly see that happening. I think, we've watched. If you look at the interest that's happened around the world, you just have to look at the ladies tours. Look at the LPGA, for instance. You've seen coming out of Korea and other areas, other Asian areas, just the boom of young players that have just gravitated, and the high level of playing that's coming on to the LPGA, and you don't see it quite as much over here on the PGA right now, but you've seen it certainly on the women's tours, but you're certainly going to see it as time goes on, and I think with what you're doing over there and the efforts that you guys are doing is just phenomenal, and I'm excited to hear more about it as it goes on. So I definitely want you to, as they say, keep me in the loop with what's happening. I think there's some opportunities that we've talked about, and I won't get into them right now because we'll talk about that at a later point. But that I would certainly like to have more involvement with it as well. But Joe, just some great work. And is there anything else that you want? We're unfortunately we're winding down here just the last few moments. Anything else that you want to make sure that we get out before we?
I think that's it, Ted. I think that's it. I appreciate you having me, on the show. And if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more about the Academy, our website is www.asbipga.com. It's just ASBIPGA, so it's American School Bangkok International Preparatory Golf Academy.com. And then my email is joseph@asbipga.com. So if anybody wants any more information, feel free to contact me, and I'll be more than happy to fill you in on anything you want to know.
Perfect. Well, Joseph, again, thank you very much for coming on Golf Talk Live. It's, as I said, it's very exciting what you're working on over there, and I appreciate you taking your time. I know that we're obviously in different time zones right now, so you're actually, I'm still fairly early evening, and I'm not sure what time it is, either very early morning or I'm not sure what it is over.
10 to 8 in the morning, yep.
Oh, okay. Well, and I don't feel so bad. I thought if it was 2 or 3, then you were having a late night. But Joseph,
no,
yeah,
it's okay.
Listen, thank you very much, and I want you to come back on the show as things progress and keep me updated and keep us updated as well. And anything, as I've said to you before, anything that I can do, through my mediums here. To help generate interest and to drive some traffic and whatnot to what you're doing over there, by all means, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks so much, Ted. Appreciate it.
All right. Again, congratulations on what you're doing over there, and also onto your anniversary again as well. Joseph DiChiara, thank you very much for stopping by Golf Talk Live.
Thanks, Ted.
All right. Take care. Okay, that was my very special guest, as I mentioned, calling from Bangkok, Thailand, Joseph DiChiara, a great PGA professional and on many advisory boards, putting together a great program, if you will, for junior golfers, and really a great opportunity for parents over in the ASEAN areas that want to get your junior golfers into a great facility. As he mentioned, it's just opened here in late August of 2015, and here they already are up to 20 students, well on their way to working towards capacity for that particular academy. And lots of great things coming in, great use of technology, as he mentioned. And I can see some great things happening in Thailand as a result of Joseph's work. Again, don't forget the contest, the Golf Talk Live Major Champions Couples Contest. I want you couples to get involved in the contest. Submit your entries to golftalklivcontest@gmail.com. Again, pick who you think is going to win. We've got 3 major championships remaining for 2016. We've got the U.S. Open coming up here in a little over a month. And then we've got the Open Championship, of course, overseas, and then the PGA Championship rounding up. Easiest way to do it, pick who you think is going to win. You've got until the Friday of each of the tournaments, midnight Friday, to submit for that particular tournament. You can submit them individually, or you can submit them all under one email if you want ahead of time. who you think is going to win. Or, the reason I gave it until midnight was I wanted to give people an opportunity to kind of see who's in the field and who's where and whatnot. But at the same time, didn't want to make it too easy for you. But pick who you think is going to be the next U.S. Open champion or the Open champion winner, or the PGA championship, who's going to be the winner of that event. Submit that to golftalklivecontest@gmail.com. Make sure that you include all of your information, your contact information, and you and your happy partner, should you be successful in winning the contest, will be able to spend a couple of great nights in the San Diego area and play some great golf, and spend an afternoon, lunch afternoon with Byron Casper, son of legendary Billy Casper, at the Old Town Tequila Factory. And also you get a copy of Billy's last book, The Big Three and Me. So remember, submit your entries to golftalklivecontest@gmail.com, and make sure that you submit them, as I said, no later than the midnight, the Friday of each of the remaining major tournaments. And we will take all of the winners that select correctly for each of the events, and we will put them in a hat. And the week following the PGA Championship, the Thursday following, Byron will be coming back on the show. In fact, he'll be coming on the Thursday evening of each of the major tournaments for the rest of the year, and then he'll be coming on the Thursday following the PGA Championship, so that we can announce the winner of the Golf Talk Live Major Champion Couples Contest. So good luck, everybody. I've already got a number of submissions already. Keep them coming, and I look forward to announcing the winner coming up here in just a few short months. So thank you, everybody, for tuning into Golf Talk Live. I want to give a special thank you to Pete Buchanan and Mike Fay for doing a great job on the Coach's Corner panel earlier. And, of course, again, to my very special guest, Joseph DiChiara over in Thailand. Thank you for being my guest tonight as well. And, of course, I want to thank all of you for tuning in faithfully worldwide and listening to Golf Talk Live each and every week. And I do, as I say this all the time, have a great amount of pleasure and enjoyment of having a number of highly talented coaches, teacher professionals, authors, and entrepreneurs stop by the show. And it's really through their participation and guest appearances that have helped make Golf Talk Live a first-class show. Special thank you to some of the sponsors and supporters of the show. Mr. Jonathan Laird from South Coast Golf Guide. Go to southcoastgolfguide.com and request your copy of the guide. It's a great publication, been around for over 20 years. Features a lot of great golf courses here in the southeastern part of the United States. So go to southcoastgolfguide.com and you can request a copy. Or if you're going to be coming down here into the southeast from literally Texas all the way over here to the northwest part of Florida, you can go to most of your pro shops. Edwin Watts, I believe, carries the guide as well. Or just email through South Coast Golf Guide. You can request a copy of the guide be shipped to you virtually wherever you are. And if you're interested in advertising opportunities in the guide, you can email Jonathan at southcoastgolfguide.com. Also, special thank you to Meredith Kirk from Meredith Kirk Golf. Go to meredithkirk.com. A great young lady, great teacher professional out in the Myrtle Beach area. Nikki and Tiffany Litherland, thank you for all of your help in spreading the word about the program. Nikki, of course, is a great young golf professional as well, and his lovely wife, Tiffany Litherland. Thank you very much for all of your hard work. Mr. Bernie Pinder from Ontic Golf, the president and founder of Ontic Golf, a great line of customized putters here in the United States. Lots of great things happening there. Go to onticgolf.com and order your customized putter today. Sean Kelly, owner and founder of linkedgolfers.com, great website taken from the largest golf group on LinkedIn, Linked Golfers, and he's brought that out here on the website. Go to linkedgolfers.com and you can see some great information, great instruction from a lot of teacher professionals from around the world. And also to my good friend, Mr. Peter Doyle from Doyle Golf Solutions over in Ireland. Thank you for all of your hard work as well in spreading the word about the show. I want to take this opportunity one last time to thank, again, all of you for tuning into the show. Just remember to tune in every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody and have a great week.